Okay, so just to kind of give you an overview of this shoot so you kind of know what to expect, I have only picked 148 pictures of the entire gallery that I did already edit and deliver just because I wanted to be able to do this in the time frame that I have. So I chose this because there's a lot of like this really lush green forest that we have a lot of here in the Pacific Northwest. But then we also go out to the beach where just the colors and everything get a lot more neutral. And then at the end, we kind of get into like a little bit of sunlight, and the sun was coming through, especially at the end. So I'm gonna go through kind of like how I edit that way. And then I switched my camera once the sun did dip behind the horizon. I switched the focal, or I turned around so that this all this sunlight is like the basically like the afterglow of the sunset that was happening. And then off into like a tiny bit of blue hour, which was just kind of as we were walking back. So I just wanted to show you guys my process using the presets and hopefully just give you a little bit of education in Lightroom itself. So let's get started. I am just gonna right off the bat go with my everyday preset, which is kind of the one that I tend to use the most. It definitely has the greenest greens in that preset, and so I tend to like using it when I'm in a situation like this. And just compositionally, because they're walking to the left side of the image, I feel like this part of the image is just kind of a little bit dead and empty, so I'm just going to crop it in a tiny bit. And then I always get really annoyed when there's stuff in the edges of my pictures like this. And so I'm just going to crop it down so that I kind of get all the stuff out of the edges, like even here when this was in the frame, kind of bothers me a little bit. So I'm just going to crop out all of that so the picture looks a lot cleaner. And I think she's getting just a tiny bit overexposed, so I'm going to bring the highlights down just a little bit so that it evens out. And I think that looks pretty good. So I usually will just go in and copy everything except the crop when I am working through situations like this. Even I'll keep my local adjustment filters and everything turned on just in case I want to apply that to my second image as well. So yeah, I copied it and let's keep going. So this image, I like super intentionally placed them in between these trees just because in a forest it's really easy for a couple to get lost in the mix of everything, and I wanted them to still stand out a bit, and so I stuck them in between that light part in the image. And then because it is so centered, I just want to make sure that we really do have them like exactly in the middle. And then I kind of tend to want to like highlight them a little bit more, so I'm just going to add a little radial filter here, which I have it inverted, so all of the adjustments that I make is going to happen to them, which I think I'm actually going to switch it. I'm going to tone the background down, and then if you double click effect, that'll just bring everything back to 0, and I'm just going to bring in just the edges a tiny bit so that they are just like the tiniest bit more highlighted. You can go down here and just click this to see like, okay, yeah, they do stand out a little bit more, which I really like. And then I'm just looking at the edge of my picture here too, and I just want to bring that in a tiny bit, like so. So I feel like that looks pretty good. I like how green it is, so I'm going to keep it that way, but it would be maybe an option. I'm going to go into my hue slider and maybe just bring a little bit more warmth into these colors here because I don't want this to get super neon green. I kind of want it to still feel a little bit warm because I like warmth in my pictures. Yeah, here's another one. I really, really love it. I remember I applied that radial filter, and so, I mean, it's totally preference that you would like uncheck that when you are copying, like going here and you can uncheck radial filters or like any of the filters if you don't want them, which might be easier to just kind of show you every time I do it. And then this thing on the side really bothers me, so we're definitely going to crop that puppy out. And I like that a lot. And I'm keeping them kind of like on this rule of third right here where it's intersecting because I feel like that looks really good. And I wonder what this would look like. Oh, that's pretty. Yeah, I think I'm gonna make it black and white actually, just because I kind of like that you almost have to like find them. So yeah, I like to give a lot of variety. And we need to make another radial filter here, which it's still inverted because it's saved, which is totally fine. And then just make sure that they are centered. Very cool. Okay. And I love like all these in between shots, even though she has a funny face on, because I just think that they're really cute. It shows her personality, which I love, Emma. So if you just push X on your keyboard, it goes between horizontal and vertical, which can be really, really helpful. So cute. I'm just gonna put the previous filter on that because I really love that it is a tiny bit blurry, and I want it to be vertical too. Right. So let's see how our settings are working here, which I feel like they look really good. I'm going to pull this in just a tiny bit so that they start a little bit more in the corner of the image. And she's not blown, her dress isn't blown out anymore, so I'm just going to bring up the highlights a tiny bit, but I actually really, really like what this looks like. And I'm just going to go with that. Oh, cute. Gosh, it feels like so long since I did this session, but it was only last year. Kind of funny how their hands almost run into this. It's also really cute because she was wearing Chacos, which, you know, it's like the best wedding shoe, am I right? Because I'm just honestly just copy and pasting. Okay. So here is one of just their faces, and I just applied what we had adjusted from the everyday preset onto here. I already noticed that there's a lot of dead space over here, so I want to crop it in just a little bit. Oopsie. I want to crop it in just a little bit so that they're a little bit more just centered. And then you can tell there's like kind of a little bit of red in their skin that I want it to be a little bit just browner. So I'm going to go down to my hue slider, and if you just click on their faces, I'm going to bring, you can go like super yellow, super red. I'm just going to bring it up a tiny bit so it's like a little bit more brown, which I feel like looks really good. And then maybe bring up the highlights just a teensy bit here. I feel like that actually looks really good. And then this one is also kind of just like a really close variation, but do you see how her hand was like just letting go of him, and it almost is like on the verge of being awkward? So what I would do is I'd probably make this black and white and just crop like that so that you still have the moment and it's really cute, but you're not necessarily getting like that in the picture, because it's stuff like that, I mean, as a photographer, I notice, but I think a lot of other people don't. But I feel like it just makes like your image really feel normal and natural when it doesn't feel like a really awkward in between moment, even with like hands and feet and everything. So, and like, she's just so cute. I love Emma. And I really like the colors here. So let's keep going. Okay, see how they're like way on the right side of the picture here? I definitely want to crop that in. So I actually don't mind on like pulling off the crop restrictions, just because I mean, I feel like the number one biggest thing that a lot of photographers are really afraid of is like, oh, you're not going to be able to print a 5x7 of this picture and stuff like that. But I mean, if they ever requested a totally different sized image, I could give it to them pretty easily because I keep all of my catalogs. But I also think that like wedding albums and all of that just have so many options that like having a creative crop actually tends to work a lot. Okay, I'm gonna crop this in. It's a little too bright, so I'm just gonna bring that down a tiny bit. I like that a lot. Let me keep going. Oh, this one's so cute. So much of what was happening here was just like who they are. Like I wasn't really doing or saying anything to them except like, don't forget to have a really good time. And I think I am going to crop this just so that there's a little more focus. I felt like there was just too much empty space in this picture, and I really wanted to focus just on how cute this moment was. So I'm just cropping it in a little bit. Oh, so cute. I wonder what this would look like. Oh, cute. I'm going to crop this one in too. Love it. And then there's too much space in this one too. So we'll bring that in. I like would much rather shoot further away and get, you know, like more of their body in, that I can crop all of this out later, because the quality of your images are so big, and I just like having the freedom to crop instead of coming into post and having like whole body parts of theirs totally cropped out in camera, and I don't really have the option to fix it at all. Which, oh, I might go, oops, wait, I might go horizontal here because it's really cute and I just want to focus in on them. And then I wanted to get the detail of her shoes because I just loved that she wore her chacos. So I'm gonna just bring that in like so. His foot's a little bit awkward too, so I might just boop him out there. So you can see, like, it doesn't look bad, but it looks awkward. And I definitely want to not make them feel awkward when they look at their pictures. It's for certain. So we turned around a little bit, and the light is definitely different over here. And now, ooh, this here, I definitely need to crop that out. Oh, no, I want to keep this on for right now. So we switched sides, and the light is really different here, and I feel like this is almost a little bit too warm now. So I'm going to go back into my hue slider, and I'm just going to make it a little bit greener because I wanted that green to really still keep coming through. And this is that same angle that we just switched to. And see how she's blown out right here? So I'm just going to bring that down in my highlights. And yeah, they kind of feel like they're a little too on the side. So I'm just going to pull that in a little bit. But I brought in a little bit of foreground right here, which I liked a lot too. And then I just want to make sure that this is straight with the trees that are in the background there. So cute. There's almost like a natural vignette that's happening around this image, but it's definitely not straight. So let's straighten that out. So cute. Oh, cute. And when I'm shooting pictures like this, where like, okay, say that there's, you know, this is obviously not the entire album, but say that there's a few of these and I just want a little variety, I'll come in and turn one of these black and white, just to give them a little bit of an option too. So maybe something like that. Oh, and close-ups too. I just can't help myself but turn them black and white. I just feel like they're so soft, and it makes it really easy to kind of like maybe later I might go in and refine some of their close-up, like this hair I might take out, like stuff like that. But I really like turning them black and white because sometimes there's just something like really soft and beautiful about a close-up black and white picture. Which this one could look good in color, but it might make even more sense with black and white. I like that. I like that it's not even really in focus. And see this shadow up here and this in the corner? I'm just going to crop that out. even a little bit more fun. So I probably actually wouldn't choose this picture because I feel like the focus wasn't exactly right, and I don't feel like this is the most flattering picture of Emma, and you know, it's my job to keep an eye out for that, so I'm just gonna skip that one. I'm gonna keep going here. So, see this log in the corner? Ooh, that drives me nuts. So we're just gonna pull that in a little bit. Even this kind of drives me nuts, but I'm gonna see if I can make it work. I might just go vertical for the sake of that branch that was in the corner. And then these greens are getting like really green, so I'm gonna just go in saturation, and I'm just gonna desaturate them a tiny bit so that it feels just a little bit easier on the eyes, like that. And we'll copy that and see how it keeps working. Yeah, I just love these colors, but this that's coming right out of his head kind of drives me crazy, so I don't think I would actually choose this picture. And I was getting her chacos again, which I like this picture a lot. I'm just gonna bring it in a little bit because there's a lot of dead space at the bottom of the image, so we're just gonna go like so. And this right here, on love, we're gonna go in a little more. Perfect. Okay, so we went to a totally different part of the forest now, so I know the light has changed. So when I apply the preset, I'm gonna have to see if it does in fact work. And remember we changed, I do that all the time. Okay, remember we changed the color of the greens back when we were in this view. And so I just want to make sure that I like what the greens are. I might keep them desaturated, but I might make them a little bit greener in the hue. Tiny bit greener like that. I like that a lot. And in a situation like this, I might bring in a radial filter and lighten them up just a tiny bit so that they do stand out from the background a little bit more, like so. Just because, yeah, it's just so, there's so much going on. Like the canvas of the image itself is just not very simple. And you want to make sure that the subject in your image is like the immediate thing that your eye goes to. This is a good picture, but I don't feel like the composition is very strong. I don't feel like the moment is really strong, so I actually probably wouldn't choose this image because I don't really feel like that much is happening in it. Okay, cool. So I was trying to bring in, I probably like picked up a fern to try to bring in like a little bit of a blur. So in a situation like this, I wouldn't keep how green this is because that green in a picture, which I'll show you, that's just not really that pleasing to the eye in my opinion. So I did this with the intention of turning this black and white because then it kind of creates this like really soft, almost filmy effect. And then I do want to go in with a radial filter on them and have them stand out a little bit more. Because like you can just barely see him in this situation. So some of this works, but sometimes in the forest like this, it can get really hard to get the focus on them in the right way. So I did a couple with the leaf, I did a couple without, just so that I had a couple of options. They're not centered, so I'm just going to bring them into the center and maybe decrease the contrast a little bit so that it isn't as contrasted on them. Okay, cool, and we're hiking out now. So, ooh, I like that. Whenever they're facing a direction in the picture too, I want that to be where the empty space is. So I'm just gonna come in and crop a little bit to the side here so that it feels like they're walking out, like so. And I love this because she was like touching the fern with her hands, and it was kind of like a really cool moment. I don't mind the space over here because I feel like her body is kind of like facing, like you can tell she's walking around this bush, but it could be pretty to make just like a smaller crop of this image too. Up to you. I would probably do one of either. And oh, I love this detail a lot. So I'm always trying to find ways, especially when they've like so intentionally chosen a specific place for their shoot, to incorporate the environment into my story. And so I love when there's some sort of interaction with the environment that I can capture, because then it kind of makes you focus on it and kind of like see and relive like how unique it all felt and was. And I loved how she was holding up her dress. I don't know if this is awkward, but I kind of like that this color is tying in this color too. So I might actually just use that as a detail shot because it's kind of fun. I like it. Okay, that was the end of the forest. So then we headed out to one of the beaches here in Oregon, and I'm just going to start over. So I'm not really going to apply what we were doing in the forest because it's just going to be too different. So now that we've changed the location completely, I'm going to go back and start over again, which I'm actually going to use my creamy preset because I like that one a lot, especially in like really neutral situations like this. And then I definitely need to straighten this puppy out. And I love using the ruler tool. It's honestly a lifesaver, or else, I mean, this is what I used to do. I was like, is it straight? Is it straight? And it would just drive me crazy. So use this ruler tool. It's really, really amazing. And then see how there's just this tiny, tiny little bit of light up here? I don't love that. So I'm just going to crop that in a little bit. And I like this a lot. I'm going to bring in some contrast instead. Yeah, okay. So let's see what these look like. See, I like this because this didn't have any of that up there. This was a different angle of the same area. Oh, it's already cropped. Weird. Must have done that before. I'm just going to pull this in to straighten this out again. Oh, so cute. I love it. Oh, so cute. All these moments were just happening. I just really, really loved working with these guys. It felt so natural. It felt so them. It felt so easy, which is a sign that everything is going well when they're enjoying themselves and you can just take pictures of them hanging out. It's like my favorite thing. I would much rather not pose and just kind of like watch them hang out and kind of like be around as a friend and, you know, as a driver. I'm a photographer, but I'm really just a driver, driving people from location to location while they hang out and I capture them hanging out. So pretty. I'm definitely going to straighten this out here. And this hate this, so I'm making sure that that gets out of the picture too. And let's copy these new settings because the light over here is a lot brighter and it's going to be a huge change. Look at this. So cute. I might crop them so they kind of got lost. I don't, like if I ever did that and I cropped, like, wait. So if I did this and I cropped part of their body out, that drives me crazy. And it's just the tiniest bit. So, I mean, possibly I would leave it. I think right now I am going to leave it, but that's what I mean by like, I would rather have so much more to work with than to end up getting like a piece, like a part of their body that's cropped out that I wished wasn't. And in this situation, I mean, I'm just working with like, I was obviously running while they were walking. I was trying to like run to get in front of them to get this still in the background. And so that's why my pictures are so right-sided. It's always super fun to realize when you are done with the shoot. You're like, wow, was there just a rock on the right side of my hand that was just pulling it to the ground? So all of my pictures I have to adjust one way. But that's just what happens. Now here we're a little bit more even. So I have my highlights brought down and my tone curve a lot because it brings out all that detail. Like it just makes it like a really beautiful soft image. So if that bothers you over here, this is kind of an effect that I have in almost all of the different versions of my presets, but especially in Creamy because it's like part of the preset is for it to be really like muted and flat. So I'm going to keep it down, but bring it up just a tiny bit so that I get a little more detail in the background here so that we know that it doesn't just go out into the abyss, but that you can see the ocean line. And okay, and all these other images, we're working with a horizon line, but it's not like a true horizon line. This line exists in the image just because that's where the mountain ended. And here it's just because that's where the rock, like how the rock was straight in the image. But once we get to this picture, we have a true horizon line here. So whether or not this is straight doesn't matter anymore. You need the ocean here to be straight. And so I'm just gonna correct it for that. And then I wanna bring in a tiny, tiny bit more light in her face. So I'm just gonna make the tiniest little radial filter here just to bring the exposure up a tiny bit, but you can't really even notice. Perfect. So cute. And we're gonna have to fix this here too. I'm gonna crop this in and center them just a little bit more too. Love that a lot. I might later in post go in and take out just some of these distracting little rocks and footprints and everything just to make like a really nice clean image, because that can just kind of like help the viewer like really focus in on them. I'm gonna straighten this puppy out. Cute. Love that. I might actually even make this vertical because it feels, once I get closer, it always feels like the space on the side is just a little too much. So I might just bring that in vertical. Oh my gosh, the light's so pretty. Look at this gradient here in the sand. So gorgeous. But I am gonna center them in here a little bit. I'm gonna like pull out the shadows so that I see them, but I don't really want to lose this on the side. And then this right here is really distracting, so I'll probably take that. I would take that out later. Which you can do this in Lightroom too. I just generally don't tend to do that when I go through in my first edit, and I go back and I do that in Photoshop afterwards because I would rather like just go through and edit the colors and the composition and everything here in Lightroom, and then later on I'll go in and I'll take out all the tiny little distracting details and make sure that everything is perfect. But you can go into your clone heal tool here and let's see if this works. Heal this out, which is nice. Okay, I really loved how her dress was kind of like swooshing in this picture, but it's a little bit awkward with his body being cropped out. It was very much like an in the moment shot that I was just getting, but I obviously didn't really get the composition that great in camera. And so I feel really torn. I mean, maybe he could just go away and this could be like just on her, but that feels weird. I might keep it, but this is a bummer. These are like the things that I look for, so you guys can get a little peek into my mind when I'm editing. There's just so many different things that you kind of have to look out for and that make an image strong, and that's why as a photographer, you have so much power to like crafting a memory, because I mean, yeah, you are just taking pictures, but you're also kind of like showing kind of like the best version of that moment, so that everything in the image is like, they look good. It's a beautiful moment where they're super happy. Like you can tell just how much they just absolutely and truly enjoy each other. And like that's what I want them to remember. And so that's the type of pictures that I want to just continually share and show and include in my galleries. I might bring the highlights up a tiny bit to give her a little bit of a pop. And her sandy feet, so cute. Here's just a fun little detail shot, which is kind of cool. It's not that strong of a shot, to be honest. So I might, let's see here, crop this down and keep it, but I might not, because it just doesn't really like tell you any story. It doesn't really tell you anything. I mean, it tells you that she's wearing an engagement ring, but it doesn't tell you anything else. So it's just kind of like a dead shot for me. And this one's kind of cute, but this going through their head bothers me just because it is the darker part of an image. And I don't feel like this moment is that strong, so I'd probably just let that one go. Okay, changing direction again, so our light has changed, so I need to make sure that my preset is a-okay when I apply, which it does look pretty good. And then we're definitely gonna have to straighten this puppy out. And I love that the empty space in the image is over here, because that is where, that's the direction that they're heading, and so it feels natural. So let's follow them on the beach here. This is cute. I'm gonna straighten this out right here. Crop this in over here. I like that a lot. I like that her hair is just flying. So cute. Let's straighten this out. Did I get that right? Right here. And I'm definitely going to center them here. Cute. Cute moment, but not the most flattering, so I'm going to let that one go. And this one's fun. There's like a whole there was a whole host of birds over here that I was trying to get them to run into, but we were both running so fast that I was like, I don't even know if any of these pictures are in focus, let alone am I even close enough to them, because they started running so much faster than me before I could get up to them. Like, I wish I was on the other side of them so that I got like them running through the birds, but if I had walked around the birds over here, they would have flown away. So we just kind of had to go for it. Plus, it was just very in the moment that they did this, because we were like, look, birds! So, yeah. This down a little bit. Lots of birds. Okay, her hand is a little bit awkward here, so I might not use this one. It almost is like, yeah, we're going to pass on that one. It's so, so, so important to notice these things. Like, I just can't even stress how important it is. And I feel like I do see a lot of pictures where I'm like, ooh, that looks really awkward. Just online, on social media or whatever. And yeah, it's like, I don't know, like makes them feel a certain way when they get their pictures back, and it gives them, you know, that curated version of their memory that you're capturing for them. And so I just like hate looking back at pictures of myself and being like, wow, why am I so awkward? I wish I didn't have this picture of myself at all. So yeah. Okay, we're gonna start over because we I got in a lot closer to her here, and the lighting is really different when you transition this much, so we're just starting over with the preset again. Which I want to just pull this in a tiny bit. I loved her little earrings because I felt they were so unique. I really wanted to capture that. So I just had her pulling her hair out a tiny bit. But you can see there's like a shadow here. I want to bring that out a little bit. So I'm just going to go to my brush tool and let's pull up a little bit of exposure. Make this a little bit, just paint a tiny, tiny bit of brightness in here to the point where you can't really tell. And if you can tell, then there's problems. So I always like to go in and check and just make sure that it's not something that's too noticeable. And then he came in and they were, oh wait, what am I doing? I'm applying the wrong one. I didn't copy this one. So let's apply this, which this is like really cute. I'm gonna bring some of these levels up a little bit. I'm gonna crop this in just a tiny bit. Oh, love that a lot. I was shooting like really, really wide open too, so that I got a little bit of like depth and dimension. Like I didn't mind that just her hair was in focus, and they were kind of blurred. I like pictures like that up close because I feel like you don't really want to see all the pores in your body, and so I'd rather it kind of be almost a little bit shadowy and grainy and a little bit out of focus. Really cute. See how much dead space there is here though? So first I'm just going to make sure that this is straight because I'm going to lose that horizon line. And then I'm just going to crop them in. So it's really cute. Okay, let's keep going. So kept walking down the beach. And I did change my preset a bit, so I'm going to have to start over with a new exposure. It looks like everything else kind of feels right. I'm just going to bring that up a little bit. Let's copy that. A couple pictures of them just walking, which I might just try to center them a little bit more because that just kind of makes sense. See, we've lost the true horizon here, so it can be a little bit more up to you. Sometimes I don't really use this ruler tool unless I am working with like either a horizon that I can't figure out or with a horizon that is like the ocean, which is a true horizon. And this one's really, really cute. There is a surfboard back here, which you can't tell that it is yet. And so I would definitely go in and just boop. Because I like that it's in the story, but it doesn't make sense yet. Like here it doesn't make any sense yet. So I'd go in and just edit that out. Yeah. And then I'm just gonna crop this in a little bit too because I feel like there's a lot of dead space at the bottom. I was trying to get some of the detail because her dress started getting really dirty. And I really loved it. I'm just gonna bring down the exposure a little bit and go detail, why not? Okay, so now the surfboards make sense. It's not like the strongest image ever, but it is kind of a cool storyline because they are on the beach. You know, it is the Pacific Northwest. There are cold water surfers that are out here all the time, and I thought it was just kind of a cool part of the story. And so I am going to probably use that picture. This one I tried to get just the surfers in focus because I thought that was pretty fun. But because it's backlit, it kind of is a little bit harder to see them. So I might actually go black and white, but we'll see. Okay, we need to definitely straighten this bad boy out. And I might just go black and white because it kind of is like about the surfers. Ooh, and I might even bring in like a fun like black gradient at the bottom just to kind of give it like another little push of contrast. That's fun. Okay. let's see here. There's a lot of space over here that I just want to kind of get rid of a little bit. So we're just going to crop that in a tiny bit. And then it kind of feels a little bit flat. And so I just want to bring in a little bit more contrast once we got a little bit new light. And I like this a lot. I don't like this in the corner here. So I might just crop that part out instead of heal or clone it out, because we have so much space to work with in the picture that I don't mind. Oh, and I loved this detail. They were just holding each other, and I came up and got her little dirty dress deeds, which was a really fun part of the story. So it just kind of shows like her carefree, super in the moment mentality to capture stuff like that. And that's all part of the story. So cute. And then I was like hunching over while she was walking because I wanted it to be a real moment. I was like breaking my back, hunching over, trying to get a picture of her dress while she was just naturally walking. It was really funny when I was doing it. I do that kind of stuff all the time, especially because I'm tall. I'm 6 feet tall, and so it is pretty funny when I'm shooting to see how much I am hunching over all the time. And oh my gosh, I love this so much. Look at that gradient that just naturally is happening. Wow. That's just so good. Like so good. I don't know. I might take this out, but it might be okay. Let's see what it looks like just for funsies. Yeah. No. Let's just leave it. It's fine. Okay, yeah, we stopped at this one other spot on our way back to the parking lot just because I really liked that some of the sun was like stuck behind the clouds and was coming through here. So I just got kind of a couple of pictures there. We didn't really take that many just because we were kind of like on our way out, but I thought it was really pretty. A little bit too warm. I'm gonna bring this in so it looks like they're just standing on a random tree and not one that's right off the ground. So I feel like that's cool. And I like how they are really highlighted. So it's a bummer that there's trees coming out of his head, but I think it's okay. But I really like how highlighted they are. I'm just going to bring in even a tiny bit more on them. And then I bring that down because look how cool that looks. Let me see here. Just the tiniest bit. I like it a lot. Okay, so we switch now. So this preset's not going to work as well. We're just going to start over. And I definitely need to here get this straight. And they're working in this direction, so this all feels dead to me. So we're just going to pull that in a little bit. I've got too green. Might bring in some blacks. So at sunset, I like to pull out my shadows and bring down my blacks so that I'm still getting detail in their darker colors, because that is what tends to get lost. This is just kind of a funny moment. Not like the best lighting situation, but I just kind of like telling the story anyways. I'm just going to pull this out a little bit. And see how he's too highlighted now because he has that sun on him. I'm just gonna bring the highlights down a little bit. And then I can already tell there's a lot of green, like this whole picture just feels really green. I'm gonna bring a tiny bit of purple back into just the white balance. And if I really had to make a big change, I would go into my split toning, but I just wanted that tiny little bit. So I feel like that works. And I actually really liked this random light that was falling on them. I was really curious to see, I was really curious to see what this one would look like in black and white, because the light is hitting them, and I might even make this gradient like a little more prominent here. Local shadows. Ooh, it's cool. And I just want to make sure that they are centered here. Ooh. So pretty. I love the Oregon Coast so much. I feel like there's such diversity, like so much diversity. Okay, so see how like anyone who was walking here plus walking here makes these really different shapes and patterns in the sand. This feels like distracting, but this doesn't. So I'm just gonna crop this out a little bit so that it's focused a little bit more on just them walking up this little dune. And I'm gonna bring in a tiny bit of contrast here for sure. And then I just wanted to share another version of that tough light because if I do just apply the preset that I was working with, it obviously doesn't work because there's too much contrast in it, and I am going to have to just lighten that up and bring out the shadows and the highlights and everything. But in situations like this, like, oh my God, I don't mind just going black and white. Wow, look at that. I feel like that's like so almost nostalgic looking just with the light, how cool it is. This picture I probably wouldn't keep. I don't feel like his face is great. I can't see hers at all. Nothing's really happening, so we're just going to scrap that one. See how we keep going here. Let's see. I might just open up. It got a little too contrasted, so I'm just opening up my blacks a little bit. I'm going to add in a tiny bit more warmth and purple. Very nice. And then again here we switch to being backlit again, and so the light is going to change. I just want to make sure that it looks right. Pull this in. Definitely pull a good strong ruler tool up there. Pretty. This is one of my favorite pictures because I love her face. But we got some serious horizon going on in the background. And I'm so happy that when I did that, his feet didn't get cropped out because I feel like this is just such a cute picture. And I'm really happy I didn't lose that detail of like his whole body being in the image. Cute. Okay. See this one? She is a tiny bit cropped out, so I'm just going to go vertical. We're going to fix this bad boy. And I feel like that looks pretty good and pretty natural. Very cute. I like this one because I could still see her face, but let's see what it looks like when we straighten out this. What was I doing? How was I shooting? I was probably like, my camera was falling and it clicked. Just kidding, I don't know. I might use this, but I might actually just bring it in a lot more because their feet do get cropped out. And go vertical. So I might as well just crop it out all together and do something like that. Cool. Okay. So now we've changed directions again. Our light is different. So we got to make sure that here let me just start over again. And we're going to pull this in a tiny bit to center them. Maybe a tiny bit more warmth. Great. Such a cute moment. See, they were just like doing this stuff. I wasn't doing any of this. It's like my favorite part of working with people that just really trust me is they can just kind of be themselves, and I can just capture them being themselves. Very cool. Background. I really like all the grass that's here. I don't, like, this one's tough because they are walking this direction, but I don't really want to get rid of all this detail. So I'm just going to break the rules a little bit and keep them right there. This one's cute, but it does have a lot of empty space. I might not use it. I don't feel like that picture is actually very strong. So let's just leave that one. This one was definitely one of my all-time favorites of the whole gallery that I delivered. Let's just straighten that out. I think because it just felt so neutral and soft, and then the moment that they were having was just so cute, and it was like such a story of like where they were and how it felt just in that picture. I loved that so much. She jumped on his back. The horizon is horrendous. Oop, whoops. I thought I was using this. The horizon here is just awful. I bet you if I straighten this out. But even, oh my gosh, okay, so even if we do actually straighten this out, this all bothers me. It just feels really weird. So I'm just going to crop it out a little bit like that, which I think looks good. See how I cropped his feet out? Oh, kills me when I do that. But it does just happen. I mean, you're just kind of in the moment, like just taking pictures. I might just crop out that altogether so it doesn't look like I accidentally just cropped it out, you know? It feels a little bit more like, oh, it's on purpose. And I'll put this up just a tiny bit more. So cute. Definitely need to straighten this out. So see how there's two lines right here? This one's definitely more prominent. So I'm going to try to figure out something between the actual ocean horizon and this one, because if I just did it to that, this one would feel maybe it doesn't feel so bad. But sometimes there can be multiple horizon lines, and you want to keep like the true horizon of, you know, the ocean line in a situation like this, but at the same time, you don't really want your picture to feel like off kilter by another really prominent horizon line. So that's something that you need to keep track of too. And cute, I'm just going to turn this one black and white because I feel like it was such a cute moment. Or wait, let's go back. Cute. Okay, see now at the very end of the day, the sun started coming out, which is definitely going to totally transform the look and feel of these pictures. And I like their little footprints coming in because it kind of creates like a little bit of a leading line. No, we're not quite there yet. Ah, you can tell I'm running. Look at this picture. Ah, so off center. And remember I told you when I do sometimes super backlit, I'll kind of invert these so that I can bring back like the richness of all the dark colors in the background, and still get like the detail in their face by pulling this out. I never want to go all the way because it feels a little bit unnatural to me, so I'll just go a tiny bit in like that. Ugh, and this just killed me. I'm obviously still running here, guys. Ooh, whoops. This just killed me, like how absolutely beautiful the blue was up there, which I'm going to show you how you can bring that back. Oh, it doesn't feel straight at all. Okay, let's try again. If you like can't get it actually straight, sometimes I just need to make the line longer. Let's pull this out. So this just turned a little bit warmer because the preset itself is warm and has warmth in the shadows and all of that. So I'm just going to go down to my saturation and click on my slider and just pull up those blues right there. Make sure that they are still coming out. You could even go in and like make them darker, but if you go too dark, it's just gross. It's obviously like there's blue in her dress too. Even just a tiny bit looks pretty cool. See what that looks like if we did previous. I'm gonna go and straighten this out for sure. And then let's put a tiny little filter on them that makes their faces stand out a little bit more, while also bringing in the contrast. And saturation of this blue up. Yeah, that looks cool. I love it. Very nice. We're just gonna have to apply that filter here again. And even though there isn't like full detail on their face, it's okay because you're kind of just capturing like the place and the moment. You know what I mean? So we're just gonna leave it like that. That's just another one that had a bird that I really liked. Make sure that this is right on them. And we straighten. So cool. Love that. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. I've definitely run out of time just going through that entire session, but I felt like we still got from forest to beach to sunset. And so, yeah, there you go. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If this was helpful, I'd love for you to let me know because then I will make more if you tell me that this really was helpful for you. So let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, just thank you.